Hi, welcome to the Andrew Buckle video tutorial on Illustrator and the Flare tool. Just going to run through it. Now I'm using 221, but you can use 220, 219, etc. You'll notice I've got a black background here. I think it works best on a black, I'm just creating a rectangle, black rectangle, which the flare can be on top and looks just nicer than just using it with white. You don't have to, of course, but also, of course, it works best if you've got sort of a path there already. You might have a design there that you want to just add a flare to, if that's what you want. So let's just quickly go through the first step. Now you can add it a number of ways, and the flare tool can be found over here beneath the rectangle tool. So rectangle, flare tool. You can just add it very quickly by simply dragging to create it, or what I normally do is just click the document. Also, you can double click this and bring up the panel at any time. Obviously you can see nothing there, but you can just set all the settings if you want. So I'm just going to click there and you can see the panel. So that's the default. And you can then, what you do, you can modify a number of these settings. So I'm just going to change opacity. You can reduce opacity, increase opacity. You can see that. Now it's a bit harder to see when you're obviously with all these lines on top. So I'm just going to remove some of these rings and rays. And you can see there, so you can change the brightness. Doesn't actually, to be honest, 0%. You think that would fade away completely, but anyway, that's also opacity. Even that with 0, you've still got some down the bottom. Very strange. But you can change that. You can add rays. Now I'm just going to reduce that rays, so just make it 4 or 5. Obviously, you don't have to have that. You can make it more than that, but it just makes it simpler to see what's going on. So you can change the longest. You can really push it out, or you can make very, very reduce it down, and you can see it's then very small in this area. And also you can change fuzziness as well, which is harder to see any difference. But obviously one of these things, you can experiment obviously going through some of these settings. Now luckily the preview is on in this tool. Some tools might, for some weird reason, do not have a preview on. It's good that this one does have a preview on by default. Also what you can do, you can go to halo and you can change the halo. So you can reduce it down to next to nothing. You can push it out, see, like that, make it a lot bigger. Just generally keep there. And also you can add rings if you want. Now unfortunately you can't change any, you can't go there, but you can modify them. It'd be nice if it was interactive. Now it is interactive when you create it in the first place. Weirdly, even though this is to a degree a use, you can change it. It's a live tool, but you can't interactively change it, which is very odd. I hope, like all these other tools in Illustrator, like the obviously the rectangle, circle, etc., eventually it will become a live tool, complete with interactive controls. It should do by this stage. However, it's not. So what you can do, you can change, obviously you've got rings, you can add increased number. Personally, let's just go down to 4 or something. So you can just see there, and you can also change the largest, you can make them bigger, smaller, 20, and you can see, change a variety of different things. And you also change direction. Again, like I say, it's not interactive, so you can't drag it around. Why it's not, don't ask me. Click OK. So you've got your design there. Now you can, of course, move it around, do all various things, and it's also still live, but not interactive live. You can't do anything with it physically, particularly. You can obviously go up to object, and you can do various things. You can expand and all those sort of things. But you can't do much else. But you can still go over here to the flare tool, double click, and now it's still active. Still active, so the one you've selected, you can modify the settings. So if you decide, oh, you know what, I don't want rays, so I can remove it. I don't want rings. I can remove those at any point and rays again. So it is live to a degree, but just not interactive. So what you can do, I'm just going to remove that now. You can add it like this, and when you do that, you'll see there is an element of interactivity. So you can move these circles, these rings going out. So you can create some interesting designs that way. It's a double option in there. So you click there again, and you can see as you drag that out, and you can position like the angle and all those sort of things. But it's very limited. You can't change. There's no sort of like in the repeat feature. great feature. Repeat, you can change the number of instances, etc., all interactively. And also you have got options over here. Sadly, with the flare tool, there are no options over it. It's not live as far as the properties, considered. So now with this design, again, like I say, it's still live, but you can, of course, duplicate it. You can hold down the Alt or Option key on the keyboard, just go to the Alt key if you've got a Mac like me, and you can just duplicate it. And I think personally, creates a much better effect when you've got multiple, if you want to create some interesting visual effects. Now, with, of course, there, what you can see is you've got an option to, I'm just going to go over here, you've got opacity. So you can change the opacity. So you can fade it away. So you can create a sort of double flare where it sort of can move that. You can see it's a lot lighter than the original. And also, of course, you can go there, set 100%. You've got opacity there, you've got blending modes. So if you want to, you can go difference, which maybe, not everyone is going to say is, but it does create some interesting combinations if you want to go with, say, difference or saturation, whatever. Some obviously will work, some will not. Lightness, darken, and so on and so on. So you're probably not going to be effective at all. So I'm just going to remove that. So you got that design. I'm just going to remove that. So again, go to the flare tool, and I'm just going to add a very basic one just there because I just want to, got this design. Now I can do various warps and designs. So what you can do is just the standard. So you can just go down to Object, helps, go to Object menu, and you can go down to Envelope Distort. Make with warp. So you can actually warp it. So you can create some very interesting, unusual, you may not, if that's what, if you want to explore different sort of things, you can create some very unusual warps. Also, of course, you can resize it. You can rotate it. And you also can, of course, Object, use Envelope Distort, you can make with mesh. Okay, and now with that mesh, you can go here, whoops, select that, select different points. So you want to select one that you can actually do change things. So you can see you can change different things and you can distort that design. If you want to do that, of course, I'll move this as well. But you can do that with your Envelope Distort as well to create some interesting, unusual designs. I'm just going to remove that. Now, what also you can do, of course, there's a lot more you can do than that. What you can do, you can also go to Edit. And if you want to change colours, you can go here, Recolor Artwork. There's also Adjust Colour Balance. Let's just go for that one instead. Just as easy. But you can see, just go there, put Preview on. See, some tools, Flare has Preview, but for some weird reason, Just Colours, which you'd think would be perfectly reasonable to have Preview on, since you want to see what the colours change, it doesn't allow you to do it. Very odd, Illustrator. I really truly think that every single tool should now basically be Preview on. Computers are powerful enough now in most cases, unless you've got a really complex design, that you can sort of manipulate with Preview on. But anyway, so you can see you can change that. You can also go to Object, Edit, I should say, Edit Colours and Recolor Artwork and run through that and go through, obviously, modify it that way if you want to vary the colours there. You can see subtle change, or go with a different colour library, etc. Art history, ancient, and so on and so on. Now, I'm not going to do that, but I just want to, let's just go and create another design. And I'm just going to add another one there. Now, also what you can do, you can apply effects to it as well. Now, in some cases, this will have no effect whatsoever. But say you go to like Distort, there you can use Free Distort. So you can see the Free Distort goes there, and this is obviously Effect menu. And you can then just warp design there, click OK, and you can see design is warped. Now, some will not have any effect at all. Now, I like to try sometimes. You suddenly think, oh, let's go for maybe roughen. And then you can see what happens with roughen. You can get an interesting sort of roughening effect, which may or may not be what you want, like that. Click OK. I can access it. which is maybe not your standard flare, I guess, but it's still actually, I think, creates quite an interesting effect, especially, of course, as always with these things, you can always hold down the Alt or Option key and you can duplicate the design, and you can see you can create a very quick, sort of very unusual and intense background that you may like or may not. However, just wanted to show that one out. Now, let's just resize this a bit. It's a bit too big because now, of course, there's lots of other things I've just shown. Obviously, that one you can also, of course, do if you don't say like that. Let's go and select rectangle tool, and you can do that. Select with the rectangle tool, put it on top. Select the whole thing. I just want to select that, and I want to select that. So I've select that and that. You've got the rectangle, you've got the flare. Then what you can do, you can go to Object, and you've got Clipping Mask, Make. And you can see, you can then obviously limit your thing to there. You can always then, of course, hold down the Option key, Alt or Option key, and duplicate that design. And you can see you can create some very weird, which of course you can also, if you want, you can rotate the design as well and create a very unusual background, which of course you can then select and so on and so on. Now I'm just going to undo because I don't want that, but I just wanted to show you can do it. So there's the design there. And now, and there's other ones, of course. I've just gone through a few. I mean, you can say probably modify a whole heap of more things. And of course, what you can also do, if you want, you can double click and you can go into the design. So you can see, double click, you can go into isolation mode. See, if you want to, you can just change bits of it. It lets you. Let's do. Certainly will let you access some of these bits. If not, it can't do it. You think it would, because it goes as far as the flare. However, no, doesn't let you do that. It's a pity, really. I always thought it did, but anyway, obviously I was wrong. Very strange. Anyway, maybe you might have better luck with that. Should do it, shouldn't you? I mean, you'd think that it would be, but also let's just try another one, which I haven't tried for quite a while. Object and expand. So click OK, and now you've got this design here. Object, ungroup. Aha, that's probably how you do it. You can, just by doing the expand and then doing ungroup, you can actually just, if you want to, of course, move all the objects and make it very slightly different. I knew there was a way of doing it. I vaguely remembered that I could do it that way. Just suddenly, quite often when I do my tutorials, I often think, you know what, maybe I could do that. And then sometimes, of course, you think, nope, you can't do that. Annoying, but and also you've got obviously just change that as well. So you can move things around, and you've got these different objects there, if that's what you want to do. So that's object menu and expand and various things. I'm just going to go back out now. I don't want that. Go right out back to there. So you've got this design here. Now, this again was just created using the flare tool. Obviously, you can use all these other tools as well. I'm certain there's some of these other. You can also turn it into a symbol. So if you want to, you've got window, you've got symbols there. You could add it into your symbols panel and then spray the design as well if you want to do that. It's be quite nice. Also, what you can do, I'm just going to go and next thing you can do patterns. Let's see if you try this. Object and patterns and make. There you are. So, and you can see design there. So you can create an interesting sort of flare tool design. And of course, while you're in that, what you can do, you can then, of course, go down there, flare tool. Some things it just doesn't like. So clearly at that point is the best point to, and then of course what you can do, you can save a copy. So save a copy, click OK. It's been added to your swatches. So you've got your design, but also what you can do, which is a new feature in 221. So if you haven't got 221, and I'm now going to find out you can't do it, but I just suddenly thought about it. So object, nothing like just going for it. No, it doesn't. Wouldn't that be nice? No. However, I guess what you can do, and again, object, expand, let's try it. Object, expand, click OK. So now this is no longer obviously a flare, it's not live. don't know why some things are available, some things are not. There's quite a few things where you suddenly can't do, and you think, very strange. Why is that not? Well, obviously they just haven't coded it because it doesn't make any sense why it shouldn't. But let's try it now. Object, repeat, and radial. Now I always think it works best with that going up that direction. But everyone likes different things, but I've just got the, it's just nice to start from that point. So object and repeat, and of course there's all the others as well, but radial. I think radial is quite nice. And then of course you've got your there. If you can see, I've got so many lines over there. I can't. Oh, there it is. Can't see the actual point where I can. That's typical. It's right on top of that, just to make it hard to see. But you can just move it around, and you can change the number of instances, of course. So if you want to, just have it like that. Now, of course, like I say, it's not live anymore. You can't change the design. So if you now on double click, you can go into it. You've got that design there. And you can see, of course, now, because it's been expanded. Oh, and I didn't even need to ungroup it. Okay, good. You can actually move, and everything you move, of course, is reflected in the design. So you can move that. You can create an interesting sort of design there. Now, unfortunately, I suspect this means that I can't add the flare within that. No, for some weird reason, the flare tool is not available in repeat, but you can expand it. So once you've done all that, come out of the repeat, and you can see your design there. So that's another nice additional design if you want to. And of course, you can always then hold down the Alt Option key and duplicate that design and create a very weird sort of, now that would be a weird sky. If you saw a sky looking like that, that would be strange. So I think that's a fair run through of quite a few of the features of the flare tool. I'm certain there's even more things you could do with flare tool. Well, actually, I've just suddenly thought of one, and that's obviously simply you can add pass on top. So there are those sort of things as well. So I'm just going to remove that. And of course, what you can then do, and also another thing I didn't do, you can go there, create your design there, and you've got styles as well. So window and graphic styles, you could add graphic styles, but simply also you can always go to appearance. So window and appearance, you've got appearance there, and you can then go to the right side menu there and add new fill. And then you can see what happens. You end up with this black or whatever it is, black or grey-ish. Now, obviously I've got blue there. Well, obviously I don't want that, but what I can do is I can go to the opacity, multiply, and I can change that. Ooh, don't want hard light or difference. So you can see you can create some interesting combinations there. Now what you can also do then, the next step, interesting, colour dodge, overlay. I like to just run through it. So you can see you can create a nice sort of unusual one like that. But of course what you can do with fills, of course, is you can click on there and you can bring up, and you've got all the various, let's just go for a new pattern. And you can see you can add the pattern you created with the flare tool on top. So you've actually got a flare with the multiple flares all around it, which you could, of course, created a repeat pattern with the pattern feature and created a repeat, etc. You can see the combination. You could literally go overboard with all kinds of different designs using this approach by using patterns, but also not in just patterns, of course. You can always go and select, let's just go there, and I want that one. So I can use a gradient, or maybe that one. So you can add a gradient to your flare. So you can create some interesting, and of course, always with the gradients, you can modify the gradients and much, much more. So that's another thing. It's always nice to suddenly think of something else that can be done with the flare tool. And then also, let's have another one. Now, there's a number of other things I'm certain you can do. And I'm just going to remove the black background. Let's just move that. So you can see what you'd normally get. Say you get, like if you just apply it to white. I don't think it looks so effective, to be honest. But what you can do, and I'm quite certain I might be, again, flying, what's the name, on this one. It will not let you do it. The only way you do it would be expand. Let's see, expand. And now with that, let's see if I can. Doesn't like that. Let's just put that to black. Yeah, you can add a stroke to this. Obviously, clearly quite limited. You can see Yeah, not so effective. But I just suddenly thought maybe you could also add stroke as well to the design. But because also if you could use strokes, what you can do is you can then use width profile and combine that again with repeats, with patterns, and so on and so on. So there's a number of combinations. But unfortunately, it does seem that probably you need to expand it, which means it's not live. Anyway, I think that's as much as I can think of running through the flare tool. And I'll probably think 5 seconds after I finish the tutorial, I'll suddenly think of something else. So I hope you found this tutorial of interest. Sorry it's gone on a bit long, just going through all the various things, because, like I say, I always think of some new things. I'm always adding new tutorials about Photoshop, Illustrator, Affinity Photo, Affinity Designer, Painter, etc. Also, please subscribe to the Graphic Extra channel. Always adding new ones near enough every day. Also, a dislike or like. Also, some comments. What things did I do wrong? What things do I do right? Have you got any ideas? What, can you think flare tool? How could you? What other things do you think that you could use it with? Obviously, combine it with other paths, maybe. And of course, use it in more practical sense in terms of actually using it on paths as it exists. So, I mean, you don't have to, I've been doing it like this, but you can just do a very basic, simple, just go to a path, add a path, and then use. Now, I suspect lots of people will just sort of want add the flare on the side like that. But of course, you can do that. Always great, just a very simple, basic thing like that works as well. But I just wanted to run through some of the settings and options you could possibly use to explore different avenues. Thank you much.